Hi friends, my name is Michelle Fondin and I'm the author of Help, I Think My Loved One is an Alcoholic, a survival guide for lovers, family, and friends. I just wanted to show you my book today because it's freshly out on Amazon. The Kindle and Audible versions are to follow, just depending on when you're viewing this video. It's December 13th, 2016. So right now it's out on paperback. I'm really excited about this work. It took a lot of collaboration, a lot of people to put this book together. I have a lot of stories on recovering alcoholics in this book to really bridge the gap between the two sides, between the person who loves an alcoholic, meaning you, and between the alcoholic himself, and kind of bridging that gap and bringing the two parties together to understanding what it's like to suffer from the disease of alcoholism. And so today, the theme is you are not alone. The holidays are quickly approaching, and I know that this sense of loneliness that also plagues the alcoholic plagues you as someone who loves an alcoholic. It can feel very isolating. It can feel very lonely. It can feel like no one understands your situation. It can feel like, gosh, I live with this alcoholic, whether the alcoholic is your mom, dad, sister, brother, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, son, or daughter, and you feel like you're so wrapped up in the problem of alcoholism and so wrapped up in the addiction and always picking up the pieces. And it can feel very lonely. It can feel like nobody understands you. It can feel overwhelming. And I want you just to know and think about this, that first of all, you're not alone because you have your higher power. And if you don't have a connection to your higher power, whether you call higher power God, whether you call higher power spirit or Mother Nature, whatever you call your higher power is always with you. So you are not alone because your higher power is always there. So that's the first and foremost. And if you don't have a relationship with your higher power, get into a 12-step meeting, start following a 12-step program, and they have a very good way of helping you to understand your higher power. They say in the rooms, which are, either Al-Anon meetings or Alcoholics Anonymous meetings or any other 12-step meetings, is that you can use the power of the rooms to be your higher power if that's where you're at, in that kind of collective healing power. So that shows you that you're not alone. Secondly, I want you to look at statistics. So look at things statistically. So I live in the United States. In the United States alone, there are about 20.3 million people who suffer from alcohol and drug dependence. So that's a large number of people, 20.3 million people. There are about 330 million people in the United States. So look at that statistically. What does that mean? Each alcoholic affects at least 8 people. And if you think about it, when you think about 8 people, you think, well, that seems like a lot of people. But just think about it. Let's say the alcoholic has a spouse or a best friend. Let's say the alcoholic has a mom and dad. That's already 3 people. You have a significant other, you have mom and dad. Let's say that alcoholic has a brother or a sister. That's already 4 people. We haven't even gotten to offspring. So let's suppose the alcoholic has a couple of kids. We're already at the number 6. I can do math. We're already at the number 6. And then the alcoholic might affect his boss or his work colleague. The alcoholic might affect a friend. So if you think about the web of people surrounding the problem drinker, there are a lot of people that are influenced directly. We're talking about direct influence in somebody else's drinking. So if you look back to that statistic of 20.3 million people in the United States alone, and you take that statistic of 8 people for each alcoholic, we're looking well over 150 million. Now, what I did, just for simplicity's sake, is I said, okay, let's be a little skeptical here. Let's say that each alcoholic only affects 5 people. Okay, it's easier to do the math. So let's suppose that each alcoholic only directly affects 5 people. Okay, And those 5 people are typically the alcoholic's enablers, whether it's a he or she, the people that are allowing the alcoholic, who is a sick person. We're in agreement that alcoholism is a disease, but the disease needs enablers in order to carry on with the disease process. So 5 people times 20.3 million, we're well over 100 million people, okay, affected by the disease of alcoholism. Okay, directly affected. We're talking about direct effect, meaning that the alcoholics in your life day in and day out, maybe you grew up with the alcoholic, and those people surrounding you who grew up also with the alcoholic day in and day out, direct effect on your life. Let's go back to the population of the United States, 330 million. 1 in 3 of us have been directly impacted by the disease of alcoholism. 1 in 3. So if you go into a room of 9 people, that means 3 people, very strong probability that 3 of them have been directly affected by somebody else's drinking. You go into a room of 21 people, you can be pretty darn sure that, divide that by 3, that's 7 people in that room have been or are being directly affected by somebody else's drinking. So you are not alone. Just think about that. Everywhere you go, walk through the grocery stores, walk through the malls, go into a classroom, go into your office, you are surrounded by people who are directly impacted or directly affected by somebody else's problem drinking. It's impossible to not be. There are just so many of us around. Now, here's the problem. It feels lonely because alcoholism is still covered in this shroud of shame. It's still plunged into the darkness because nobody wants to talk about it. People are really super embarrassed to talk about it. They think like, oh my God, I'm the only one, and it's so embarrassing, and, how could my husband, how could my wife be so out of control? And if it's your child, it's an adult child, you could be like, how didn't I do a good job? How did I raise a child who turned out to be an alcoholic? How did this happen? And you feel that guilt and shame, and then you don't want to talk about it. So then you feel isolated and you feel lonely. So once you start talking about it, once you start revealing your story, once you start revealing that you do in fact have a loved one who is an alcoholic, and that it's a disease, and that that it's not your fault, and that that you're going to go through the recovery process too, to stop enabling and to get yourself help and to really focus on yourself first before helping anyone else. We've all heard that old adage in the airplane where you have to put your mask on with oxygen before helping somebody else put their oxygen mask on. So when you think about it, you're well surrounded by people that know your situation, that understand your situation, and who could use the camaraderie, who could use the help of just having somebody who's going through the same stuff that you're going through. This forum is certainly a space to do that. And I invite you to not only subscribe, but please leave comments and questions below. I don't claim to know anything. I just claim to be a participant in this process and give you guys a forum in a way to discuss this, a forum in a way to just reconnect and connect with people that maybe you couldn't have connected with otherwise, and giving you the courage and strength to carry on, and giving you the courage and strength to understand alcoholism from the deepest level and understand yourself and your own behavior from a much deeper level. And so what I'd like you to think about today is just think about, walk into these spaces that occupy your life. Walk into these spaces, into the grocery store, into the mall, into a classroom, into an office, and just think about, wow, everyone around me, 1 in 3 of them is like me, is affected by this disease of alcoholism. Whether you're the alcoholic or you're a recovering alcoholic, or you are an adult child of an alcoholic. That's a term used in recovery groups, ACOA, adult child of an alcoholic, meaning that you grew up in an alcoholic household, or whether you are just a loved one of an alcoholic where you didn't grow up. And they call those, in Al-Anon family groups, they call them Al-Anonics. And so you are in good company. And what I hope to achieve through this forum, through these videos, is to help you gain the courage to talk about it, to talk about alcoholism, to bring it out of the darkness. And really, that's one of my goals of this book. It's to help you really grasp a full understanding about what the disease is and that it actually is a disease. It's a chronic lifestyle disease. It is not a moral failing on your part or on the part of your alcoholic loved one. And just to open up this conversation, that it is so prevalent in today's society that the problem of addiction, not only alcohol addiction, but the drug addiction, prescription drug addiction, is spiraling out of control. And the more we talk about it and the more we bring it out into the open, the more we can have early intervention, the more we can get people who are addicted into programs sooner rather than later. And including yourself, including getting yourself into a program. And if you listen to the preface and my story in the book, which I recorded in another video, which you can also view on YouTube, I mentioned that it's not as simple as walking away. It's just not. I mean, believe me, I came into a relationship with an alcoholic much later in life. I didn't know a single person personally on a deep level who was an alcoholic until I was 40. And so for me, I could just say, well, I could just walk away, right? It's not a big deal. Just walk away from it. But the impressions, the emotional scars, like things that really impact you and your behavior are deeply set into your person. And so you can't just wipe it away. You can't just let it go. You really need to work on this stuff in order to get beyond. And that's what I discovered. I can't just walk away from this. I need to have conversations with people who have been in relationships with alcoholics. I need to learn more about the disease of alcoholism and addiction. I need to connect other people so that we don't feel so alone in this process. So thanks for listening. Please leave a comment, a question. I will get ideas for topics based on the questions that you leave in these forums. And I call them forums because it's a group, right? We're gathering together to enjoy each other's company and really start this discussion. One thing that I do ask when you leave comments, though, is please be nice. Even in response to somebody else's comments. I preach in my book and in my practice, I preach love, compassion, forgiveness. Love, compassion, forgiveness. There should never be any nastiness. There's really no room for that in life. We have such a limited amount of time here on earth. So thank you so much and God bless.